Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a scientist. In today's video I'm going to cover the massive layoff that we are living in right now. There's a wave of thousands of people being fired in a multitude of companies, and I'm going to show you what you can do if you were affected as an H-1B holder, but also if you are in the US as a visa holder. I want you to know that there are alternatives, so you have a solution to have peace of mind, to get your immigration process under your control and don't rely on a company that would sponsor you. So at the end of this video I'm going to show you two ways that you can take over, you can take control of your immigration process and hopefully have more relaxed and peace of mind, so you don't have to be nervous every time there's a layoff wave around. So let's jump into it. So first, the numbers. In the recent months, we have seen this massive wave of people being fired. You can see that in November and in January, so very, very recently, more than 50,000 people in the tech sector alone were fired. More than 200 companies being involved in these layoffs. There are a few of them that are more well known, and those are the ones I'm showing here on the screen: Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft combined. I think they add up to more than 50,000 people. But in general, over the last 3 months, over 120k people lost their job. And out of them, we estimate that between 10 and 30% are people on a visa, on an H-1 visa. So that means that their immigration status depends on their job, and when they lose their job, like right now, they are in trouble. They need to act very quickly so they can remain in the United States and they don't have to leave everything behind and move back to their country. Of course, here I'm highlighting these well-known companies because they had the more massive layoffs in their companies, but there are many others that I'm listing here and many smaller companies. And outside tech, in the biotech sector and in others, there's also this phenomenon taking place. So the reasons for this are complex and are several, but we know that the interest rates have been going up recently. There's less capital in the market, there's more fear in the market, so companies are tightening their spending and they are also trying to reduce the cost of doing business. And unfortunately, the workers are the number one affected parties here. So we care in this channel about you, the immigrant or the prospective immigrant, and many of you are already in the US under a visa. Of course, we're going to cover green card in this video. This is our specialty because I think that's your solution. But first, let's take a look at the H-1B workers. What is their current situation? What should they do? Well, the first thing I must say here is that generally, if you are affected by a layoff, no matter if you are an immigrant or you are American, that's a tough moment, and we all recognize that. It's a moment where you must be shocked, you are sad, there's so many emotions, you're losing your living, really. You're going to have a financial aspect to it, but you have also an emotional aspect, stress and whatnot. But for an immigrant on an H-1 visa, this goes beyond that frustration, because your permanence in the US really depended on that company. You're tied to that company. And now what you have to do, unfortunately, is you cannot spend much time dedicating yourself to those emotions like everyone else really have the privilege to do. You really have to act fast, especially if you don't have any green card application in progress. We're going to talk later about what happens if you do have a green card application in progress. But for those of you who don't have that, then you only have 60 days, because there's that rule called 60-day rule, where you need to find a new job so the new company can transfer your H-1B visa and you can remain in the US. Okay, so that's the number one thing. Don't spend a lot of time wondering what happened, why it happened to you. In most cases, there's no reason why it happened to you. It's a financial decision by a company, and you should just focus now on getting a new job, a job that will sponsor your H-1B visa. You don't have to go through the lottery again. They just need to file this form I-129, submit the documents, pay the fees. For a company, this is not a big deal. It's between 6 and 9K, depending on the size of the company and if they use premium processing or not. And then you will be able to start working as soon as the USCIS receives the paperwork. So this is what you really need to accomplish right now. This must be your number one priority, okay? If you don't have that option, or in this moment where there are so many layoffs, it's hard to maybe find the job in a company that will sponsor you. If you are in that unlucky situation, then I present here a few alternatives you have to avoid leaving the country. So number one is that you find a job in a CAP-exempt H-1B organization. That's a non-profit, an academic institution. Those companies that are non-profits, they don't go through the same H-1B mechanism, so it may be faster, or there may be more opportunities for you to get a job there. So that's something to consider. You can also go back to school, enroll in a degree in grad school or in any program that would allow you to get an F1 visa, student visa. That will buy you some time. It will mean that you can remain in the US. Of course, you are now not working, you're studying, so it is a big change in your life, but that would give you time to do something that I'm going to propose next. But first, let's go to the third option, which is you can create your own business and get an H-1B visa through that business. Now, I'm not going to get into details here. You can do your research online, but this is a complex scenario where you have to go through setting up that business and setting up in a way that it doesn't seem apparent to the USCIS that you did it solely because of your visa, and that may be tricky. Okay, so this is probably the least favorite option that I have here. But what I do recommend to you and to anyone that is not affected by layoffs is to start preparing your self-sponsored green card petition. There are options that I'm going to cover at the end of this video, EB-2NAW or EB-1A, that allows you to be the sponsor yourself. You are going to sponsor your own process, so you will not depend on any company, and you will eventually get the permanent residency that you need to untie yourself from a specific organization. And I think that's something that you should aim for, and this moment is really a wake-up call to start working on that. So what happens if you are an H-1 worker that is laid off and you have a green card process in progress? Well, there are a couple of options here. One, if your I-140 has been approved, but the visa bulletin is not current, so you cannot proceed to the adjustment of status, you cannot get an EAD card, a work permit, there's actually a way to speed up that process. It's called compelling circumstances, or category C35, and people that are on H visas, also E, O, or L visas, they can apply for this if they qualify, and basically you have to be the principal beneficiary of the I-140 that has been already approved. And even if your date is not current, if you demonstrate compelling circumstances, and by the way, financial loss is one of them, so it should be easy to show that you are out of a job, then USCIS may grant an EAD card for up to 1 year. So that gives you 1 year of being able to work in the US until you wait for that visa bulletin to allow you to adjust your status. Okay, and I took this information out of this website, official website as usual, uscis.gov. I'm going to leave the link below so you can access it and read it by yourself if that's your case. The option number 2 is if you're an H-1B worker with an I-140 approved and the visa bulletin is current. So that's the easiest situation, because the visa bulletin is current, you can adjust your status and submit the form I-765 for an employment authorization card. But sometimes that process may take too long and you don't have that much time because you are out of a job, you are going to be out of status if you don't get that job in 60 days. So if you want to make sure that you don't get in trouble, you can expedite the EAD process to obtain that work permit from USCIS. And you do that by contacting Emma, which is the virtual assistant from USCIS, or calling this phone number, 800-375-5283, and tell them that you want to expedite the request based on severe financial loss. And here I'm quoting USCIS, job loss may be sufficient to establish severe financial loss for a person depending on the individual circumstances. So here you have to explain that you are in a position of financial loss because you are unemployed and you need to get this EAD card to basically earn money and sustain yourself and your family. And I'm going to leave the link also below so you can have access to this official information. So what happens with all workers? So if you're in the US and you are on a visa like an H-1B visa or similar, this wave of layoffs is really a wake-up call for you to act. You should take your future in your hands and stop depending on a company to sponsor your immigrant petition. So here is where I'm going to propose to you that you start working on your own green card. And there are two categories that are especially interesting for people like you. There's the EB2NIW and the EB1A categories. And I have a specific video talking about these two, the similarities, the differences, that I'm going to leave a link so you can access that video if you want to learn more. But let me just run through the general rules that you need to fulfill to qualify for this. You need to have, for an EB2NIW green card, an advanced degree or exceptional abilities. You have to have an endeavor of merit and national importance. You need to prove that you are well positioned and on balance that is beneficial to waive the job offer. You are self-petitioning, so you don't need a labor certification, you don't need a job offer. And then the EB1A is for people with extraordinary abilities, not exceptional, that's a typo, which is a level higher than exceptional abilities for USCIS. There's a list of criteria and you need to fulfill 3 out of the, I believe, 10 criteria that they suggest. You also need to prove that you want to continue working in your area of extraordinary ability and that your work will benefit the US in the future. So in these categories, as I already mentioned briefly, you don't need a job offer, you don't need a sponsor, you don't need a company behind you sponsoring your process. That means that typically in an employment-based green card, your process is initiated by a company and they do what is called a PERM or labor certification. That is not needed for EB2NIW or EB1A, and you jump directly to the I-140 step, in which you submit your application to USCIS, explaining why you fulfill all those conditions that we described, and then you either adjust your status if you're in the US or proceed to consular processing if you're abroad. So this general process is what you would follow, and after you are done with this, you would obtain your green card and you would be a permanent resident. You can switch jobs, you can even be unemployed without this 60-day nonsense. You can just be calm and be the owner of your own future in that sense. So in this channel I talk about that kind of category of green cards where you can self-petition. I have a website called eb2niw.info. I have a lot of information there. I really focus on the EB2 category because it's so broad that many of you can actually access that. And recently I've been working hard of putting together a comprehensive online course where you can learn about this EB2NIW category and really draft and craft your own petition. So this is how the course looks like. There's a lot of content. I go over how to fill out the forms, how to structure your cover letter, how to write good English in your petition, how to write personal plans, everything you need to really have a solid case. And I have all the lessons in both English and Spanish languages. So if you want to access this course, I will leave a link below. And if you use the code YouTube, you will get 25% off, and that will be valid for the next 1.5 weeks or so. After that point, this course will go live, and that code will not be valid anymore. So take advantage of this if you are interested. But above all, I wish you good luck in your green card process or your immigration processes in the US. And I hope you are not affected by a layoff. But again, this could be a positive thing if we really take this wake-up call and start owning our own processes and become independent in terms of immigration. So if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, share it, and visit my website ev2niw.info. Thank you and have a good day.